everyone, here's the book chemist once again. Today I'm reviewing Caledonian Road by Andrew O'Anagan, a novel that's definitely having a moment in the UK. It's everywhere in bookshops, it's really being promoted quite widely. I skipped on it, I passed on it when it came out last year. I wasn't sure it would be for me, but a YouTuber I really like recommended it highly recently, and I decided to give it a read. It's definitely incredibly entertaining and gripping on every page. It's one of the most fun, most engaging reads I've had in the last few months. Caledonian Road is first and foremost a novel about London, almost comically so. The rest of the UK appears almost exclusively as the place where the characters retreat at the weekend to unwind in their countryside mansions and estates, or at most it's the place where all the people who do these menial jobs around London come from. It's the place where they hail from originally. And for all that I like to think of myself as a very much of a city person, I've never really got into London. I've never really understood its fascination, its charm, which is the reason why I passed on the book at first. I thought it wouldn't be for me. A lot of the cities I love, places like Paris, places such as Milan, are built on immense amounts of injustice and inequality. But in London it feels like that is almost a little bit too evident, almost a little bit too stark, this great immense inequality you see everywhere. When I think of London, I think about walking down these streets that are lined with townhouses, with the white pillars by the doors and the gated parks in front of them, places that are almost unattractively opulent, that are just way too wealthy. And then you turn the corner and there are these massive council estates that clearly look unkempt, that clearly speak of a lack of privilege, and it's a stark contrast that always surprised me a little bit, perhaps. And Caledonian Road is very much about that. The road that gives the novel its title is a road in North London, where this type of contrast is very perceptible, where you have these very rich, opulent houses side by side with apartment blocks where people from more humble working class backgrounds, lots of them perhaps migrant families, second, third generation migrants, live. This diversity captured here, the fact that within the span of a few streets you meet people who really have nothing and they have to struggle to acquire the very basic necessities and dignities of life, side by side with people with immense amounts of power, wealth, money, influence. This diversity is very much what gives the novel its power. It's got an immense cast of characters that are captured really beautifully in their uniqueness, and many of them are given their own voices and their own subplots in the course of the novel. Some of them come from the country's liberal establishment. The protagonist, Campbell Flynn, is a professor at UCL, an art critic, very much a cultural commentator, a bit of a pop professor, if you will. There's journalists, members of parliaments are characters in the book, and a lot of them come from the nobility. You have some ultra-conservative dukes, you have some businessmen who have acquired part of their wealth through less than reputable means. It's really a varied cast of people that you get to follow and experience. Caledonian Road is very much of an expose into the corruption that is present at every level of this world, and it's perhaps a book about the various ways in which these people, from the politicians who make deals with shady foreign contacts to the liberal academians, the liberal journalists who very much benefit from this situation, perhaps who studied in universities that are flooded with dirty money, who attend gala events, charity events, again, that are flooded by this type of investments, how all of these people sleep at night, the various ways in which they make sense of their own roles in this criminal world. I think the way the novel jumps between its various characters is amazing and masterful. As far as its plots go, it's nearly flawless, which is quite something for a 600-page novel to be so gripping and so entertaining. I also really love the way the novel uses anticipation, which I think is is a narrative technique that is really difficult to do well without spoiling part of the plot's impact. Throughout the book, you are told many times that Campbell, the protagonist, is going to unravel at some point in the near future. Something terrible is going to happen to him, and you are reminded of it quite frequently, and you're told that once things come crashing down for him, he will think back upon the scene that you're reading and focus on this or that detail. And the way anticipation is used here is really gripping and really effective. It both comments on what you're reading now, projects the eye of the novel into the future, brings it all together. It works really well. Caledonian Road is very much a novel in the tradition of Flaubert or Updike or Jonathan Franzen. I haven't read Thackeray, but I've heard of a lot of comparisons with Vanity Fair. It's a book that pokes fun at its characters and at their ideas of themselves, maybe their delusions, their idiocy, all their small bourgeois neuroses. There are some conversations in the book between these self-important dukes and these liberal professors, where somehow the novel manages through its humor, through its irony, just to show you that all of them at the end of the day are awful people in their own special way. At the same time, it doesn't lose track of its own humanity, and even while it's poking fun of these many characters, it can still show that some of them, while obnoxious, while idiotic, they still can have a lot of beauty in themselves, they still can have a lot of empathy, they contain contradictions, and are still capable of great acts of love. While I think that the novel's various plots all work really effectively, I am not sure all the characters are as well rounded as each other. Milo, for instance, one of the novel's maybe co-protagonist, is a young student from a mixed ethnic background. He's an expert at computers, he's a bit of a hacker, he's very much of a hacker, but he's also interested in cultural issues, very much interested in social justice, and he becomes Campbell's protege, but he seems to have a personal agenda of his own when it comes to their relationship. Milo, his girlfriend, Campbell's sister Moira, who's a member of parliament. A few of these characters come across as maybe a little bit too perfect. If they have a flaw, is that they're maybe a little too righteous in their moral perfection, which is maybe a little unconvincing in a novel that is otherwise quite keen and aware of the endless contradictions and the many ways in which humans can be flawed and messed up. So it's a bit weird when these characters come across as so pure, which maybe leads me to the aspect of the book that leaves me a bit more uncertain, which is its political angle, maybe its attitude to the establishment, to everything that it's supposed to satirize. Because it comes across as a bit of an indictment of the establishment, of the liberal establishment. It talks about the ways in which art, the production, the consumption of art are tied with exploitation, with oppressive business practices, with criminality, with foreign investors from shady backgrounds, so on and so forth. And it talks about the way that the liberals themselves, while critical of a lot of these things, kind of take part in this system and benefit from it a lot. They might speak from their high horses and from their ivory towers, but are rarely ready to renounce any of their privileges that come from this dirty world. In some ways, the self-important, ultra-conservative dukes almost seem to at least have a more consistent worldview than these people torn between privilege and lofty ideals. But I'm not sure whether this is an indictment of the establishment or it's a way to somehow exculpate the establishment by showing that it's capable, it's aware of its own limitations and problems. Because ultimately it seems to me that the book kind of believes that the establishment can heal itself. It kind of believes that there are such things as politicians who are going to make a difference, journalists who are going to bravely expose criminals. It kind of believes that power is not corrupt in itself, and you can remove the corrupt elements within governments, within business, and make the world a better place, which seems to me very much of a pro-establishment position to speak from. Even the fact that a lot of the villains in the novel are Russians is very much a pro-establishment position in a novel written in 2024. I'm maybe also hyper aware that this is a book written by, I understand, the editor of the London Review of Books, and definitely a guy who thanks government agencies, dames, a lot of very important people in the novel's acknowledgements. I'm not saying that the MI6 financed the writing of this book by any means. I'm saying that if the MI6 financed the writing of novels, they would probably read something like this. It's the old idea about, the CIA financing Jackson Pollock to show, as a tool of the Cold War, to show how open-minded Western civilization was supposed to be. So yeah, have I gone a bit too far? Have I gone a bit conspiracy theorist? Probably. Let's just say that I get the slight feeling that the novel might be trying to have its cake and eat it politically. But, these considerations are maybe a little beside the point, because it is a novel, ultimately possibly the most bourgeois art form out there. And as a novel, it's really great. It's a great study of the unraveling of a middle-aged man who somehow falls from a position of immense privilege to one of great destitution. The character of Mrs. Voiles, I find, is one of the most interesting characters, one of the most interesting subplots in the book. She's Campbell's sitting tenant. Basically, she lives in the basement apartment in his house. She doesn't pay rent to him. He's responsible for her well-being, but she's also quite hostile to him. She believes that she's oppressed by him. She wants him to buy her out for a ton of money. And their relationship is extremely uncomfortable to read about, but it's also a powerful subplot where you have, on the one hand, Mrs. Voiles, who is, clearly an unpleasant person, but you also have Campbell's reactions to her, which are quite outsized and exaggerated, and it makes you wonder exactly why she pushes his buttons the way she does. There's a lot of the subplots engage with the fact that Campbell himself had a very difficult relationship with his parents, who were working class people in Glasgow, who worked really hard to give him the life that he was able to achieve, but at the same time were maybe not the most constructive and positive examples of parenthood out there. All of these plots speak to one another and connect to one another in ways that really shine a light about the difficulties in this man's life and the difficulties of these experiences. Jacob's story, the story of this Polish migrant who comes to the UK illegally in really inhumane conditions because he dreams of making a life for himself and his boyfriend in England. He really idealizes this country, this land, as a place of great opportunity where he can make a better future for them. It's really well written. It's heartbreaking. Really, this is 2 or 3 novels rolled into one, at least, in a way that's truly seamless. They don't feel like separate strands, but they all feel like part of the same complex tapestry. Ultimately, I think it's a great novel. As you've probably gathered, I'm not necessarily convinced by it politically, but I'll also have to reflect on it more because I'm not sure how I feel. I do recommend it, however, if you're looking for an engaging, thought-provoking read about the current state of political, social life in the UK. It reminded me a lot of Zadie Smith's On Beauty, which is another book about the unraveling of an academic and an art critic. It's another book actually about the exploitation and the injustice behind owning art, behind the institutions of, say, museums, art collectors, and so on. They're really quite similar in a couple of ways, so if you've liked one, you might like the other. And let me know what you thought. I'm curious to hear how the novel is being perceived outside the UK, because a lot of it seems to me quite UK-centric in the way a lot of British content I find is quite keen on its own national identity, but I'm sure it's being, you know, well received. It's causing conversations elsewhere too, so let me know what you thought, and I look forward to hearing about your takes on the book. And thanks as always for watching the review. Thanks to my patrons for supporting the YouTube channel. Bye everybody.